if you've got nothing left in the tank, then you're going to be resentful and angry and all the things towards other people because you're exhausted.
You're looking at the economy, you're looking at the industry. It happens to me all the time. I'm talking to anybody. It could be anybody, and I'll make that introduction come true.
It's really neat to see that not only are you generous with your connections, but you're thoughtful. And then, I mean, for me, they've really led to, opportunities and new relationships that are fruitful. Welcome back to I Can Fit That In, the show where we prove that when ambition meets alignment, your fulfillment always follows. Today's guest is Joe Calvanico, a proud father, business owner, and the founder of J2C Valuation Services. Joe brings a deeply human perspective to leadership and entrepreneurship. It's shaped not just by building a business, but by the people and experiences that have influenced his life along the way. In this conversation, we will explore what it looks like to lead with gratitude, stay grounded while running a company, and define success beyond just the professional titles. So, Joe, you and I have been friends for some time, and I'm so excited to dive into a conversation with you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I've been very excited about this.
Yeah. So, what's interesting is that you and I met, I want to say probably at least 10 years ago, if not a little longer.
Definitely.
And we met, through business, essentially through networking, right? Through mutual contacts. And when I think of the consummate networker, I think of you. Every single time. You are kind of the mayor of Chicago without being the mayor of Chicago, if you will.
You're sweet.
And yeah, well, I'd love to hear and for you to share with the listeners, what's your perspectives on kind of the art of networking?
Well, I always say this all the time is that if you're in business in Chicago, and really you could probably have it throughout the rest of the country, but for sure here in Chicago is that we're a big, small town. And if you're in business, I can guarantee you that you can go to any networking thing, start talking to somebody, and all of a sudden you'll find somebody in common. Oh, you know Dave? Yeah, I know Dave. And then it becomes this conversation where, not only do you have this like warm lead now, but then all of a sudden, of course, they want to talk to you. It's like, oh, yeah, Dave and I went fishing last week, and I'm like, Dave's a great guy, that kind of thing. And it's always funny because, and by the way, you talk about consummate networker, that's you for sure. Because I was just with a guy last week, and I was trying to remember his name, but we were talking, and he goes, oh, do you know so-and-so? And then I said, yeah, I met John Udelhofer through Erin. He goes, oh, I know Erin. It was one of those conversations.
Well, people do say it's like I am kind of 6 degrees of Erin Coupe. In Chicago, for sure. And I feel like you're the same way. So you and I we have that in common.
Yeah.
But what would you say it is that networking comes so easily to you? Like, what is it that makes that easy for you?
Well, I like people, and my deal is that I go to these networking things, and I'm always going to see people I know, but I'm more interested in seeing who they're talking to and say, hey, well, I want to meet your friends. I want to hear more about the people that you're hanging out with, and so oftentimes maybe somebody from a bank will show up and they'll be with 3 other colleagues, and I get to meet them, and it's the same thing at a law firm. It's the same kind of thing. You just wind up meeting some really nice, fun people. And that's really what it's all about is that just liking people, just in general. So, yeah.
And I think for you, Joe, one of the things that I've known about you for years, and I know this from people I connect you with who, come back to me saying, gosh, Joe's such a great guy. You're very authentic, right? Like you are yourself, and you truly, to me, what sticks out about you is that you are truly generous. You are always aiming to help others in whatever way, shape, or form. So whether that's personally, professionally, it's through a connection or it's through information, you're always connecting the dots and you're thinking generously about how you can help the person that you're in front of. So, to me, that's something that comes natural to you, but has it always come natural?
Yeah, it's whenever I've heard somebody talk about something and I'm like, oh, I know somebody that can help you with that. And it is natural. All of a sudden I think of some, a buzzword, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I know somebody over there that'll do that. Happens to me all the time. I'm talking to anybody. It could be anybody. And of course, I don't have something to write it down with. And I'm like, please remind me what I said, and I'll make that introduction come true. So
yeah. And I remember, I've seen this happen in my own experiences with you through different connections. But, several years ago in 2021, you connected me with a couple of partners at Grant Thornton. And in very short time, through one of them, after a conversation for 30 minutes, I'm connected with the IPT, the Institute of Professionals in Taxation, of which you're a member of. And then again, within 6 months later after that, I'm doing a keynote for one of their big conferences in Denver. And so it's really neat to see that not only are you generous with your connections, but you're thoughtful. And then, I mean, for me, they've really led to, opportunities and new relationships that are fruitful. So that's what networking is all about, right? It's let each person take those relationships where they will, but you just making the connections. And I do this all the time. Make those initial connections that you feel intuitively are going to be helpful to that person.
Right. And by the way, just as a side note, you absolutely killed it at that conference. I think I still talk to people and they're like, oh, you remember that woman that you had? And I'm like, yeah, man, she changed my life. I mean, and
Oh,
seriously, people have said that. And I'm
I
like,
appreciate that.
I mean, it was wonderful. So
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Yeah.
Well, you just made my day. Look at you. So, I guess the next thing I'd love to talk about, this is definitely in line with networking, but it has to do more with community. And you're a part of various organizations or communities, like we're talking about with IPT, but one comes to mind, University Club of Chicago. And I know that there are others. So what is it that you look for when you decide to be a part of a community and really, give what it takes to also receive from that community?
Well, I never go into anything thinking I can get something out of it. What I go into it is looking to see if I can make a difference, and see if I can be a part of a group that I admire and respect. That's the way University Club worked for me. Was
Mm.
I've met scores of people, and I've been there 20 years, and I meet new people every day, and it's just a great place to go. And that you meet quality people that have authentic, people themselves who have great lives and that want to help others too. And so that's kind of fun, and I love that about the University Club.
That's great. And then what would you say, I mean, when you're considering how leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners view where they allocate time, right? Where they choose to put in to their life, whether it's these organizations that they can potentially be a part of or these membership communities. What would you say is one of the biggest determining factors in your own experience, but what others could take away from where do you decide where to show up?
Well, first of all, I have the utmost respect for everyone that's in business because you have so many, you've got to have so many balls juggling, right?
Right.
And absolutely admire the most is people that take care of their family. Okay,
Hmm.
your family's first, and you got to take care of them. But then, what is that there's many things in your life. The people that work with you, for you, in conjunction with you, all your colleagues, then they're second, okay? Because you really got to give back to everybody you're working with, because at the end of the day, you're nothing without them. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's very true. So I'd like to shift this a little bit to the business that you run.
Mhm.
And, you started your own practice. Gosh, was that in 2020 that you started your own practice?
2021.
2021.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's been a while now.
Yep.
What is it that led you to start your own valuation business? And we'll talk more about what it is you do, but
Sure.
what really led you to that point where you're like, you know what, it's time for me to go do this on my own?
Well, during 2020, so I was working for Jim Reynolds over at Loop Capital, actually Jim and Steve Sherman. Steve Sherman and I were partners together at KPMG, and they graciously brought me into the investment bank to work with them. And actually, I'm still a senior advisor over there, and they've done nothing but great things for me. But while during COVID, I was thinking, you know what? The business it was still busy to a certain degree, but it was one of those things where you had this lull to think enough of a lull to say, you know what? I think now's the time to actually pull the trigger and start my own firm. I don't think I would have had any better opportunity at any other time in life was except during that pandemic. Had just enough of a gap, if you will, to put it all together, make it happen, and that's what we did. And started off with me and Yelena and Jody that work with me, and now we're up to 15 people.
Mm. And what's been the hardest thing about entrepreneurship?
you wind up working for your employees is who you're working for. You're feeding them. It's all good. It's all good. But it's like, it's great being successful, and I've got everybody that works with me to thank for that, and people like yourself who have been a big impact in my life. So from that perspective, it's great.
Yeah. And where do you see, I would guess, like, you probably have a lot of clients that are quite demanding in your business. I know that you have to travel quite a bit because, you were telling me just before we got on this show that, you've had to give up a lot of vacation time and, time with your family in order to be in depositions and things like that. So, how do you view those kinds of demands, whether it's from clients or just the work itself?
Well, I mean, it's what I signed up for. I've been doing this, Erin. I've been doing this for 45 years of my life. So and when I got married to both wives, they both knew that I traveled for work, and that was going to be part of the deal. And by the way, when I say both wives, I'm not married to the two wives. I'm not, I don't have the multiple wives. They were consecutive.
Thanks for that clarification. Yeah. We were going to go into a totally different conversation.
No, but the reality is that unfortunately there have been times where I've not been able to travel with my son, who means the world to me, and I want to spend all my time with him. And he's a great kid. I can't believe he's already 16 and driving. So it's amazing, and he wants to give his life to the Army. So. Not unlike me, he wants to help people out and be a part of a solution rather than the problem itself. So I got the greatest respect for him too.
Right.
But the reality is that you have a family. You want to be able to spend as much time with them as you can. But sometimes the work calls for it. I do a lot of expert testimony work, and so sometimes it comes at inconvenient times. I've had court deadlines come up that have been like. I literally was supposed to go to London last year for fun, and I ended up having to testify that whole week. And of course, that week came, they had settled. I didn't have to. I already cashed in the trip, so I couldn't go. Because I was ready. I was ready to go to this for this court case. So I missed going to London last year too. So
right. It's funny because almost on some level, maybe you just weren't supposed to go to London, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? What if something bad was going to happen to you over there, and it was not meant to be? And I was giving a talk recently where this came up in some of the Q&A. Is people asked, if you're choosing something like work over family at certain times, how do you kind of deal with the aftermath of that choice? And the way that I look at this, and I talk to a lot of clients about this all the time. If you're making a choice for something not out of obligation or fear, but out of intention, then don't feel guilty about that. Even if it means, like, for example, I gave the scenario, last year where I had a contract for 6 months with a client to deliver a keynote at a conference that I was so excited about. Yeah. And of course, I found out, 3 months later, that my third grader's graduation was going to be on the same day. And I was physically going to be out of town for this conference, right? Yeah. Now, I could feel guilty about not being able to show up to the third grade graduation, which, by the way, only in my town do third graders graduate because they moved to a different school in fourth grade. Yeah. But instead, I wouldn't let myself feel guilt because that is not the emotion that I wanted wrapped up in the engagement that I was going to deliver and the keynote that I was going to deliver. And so instead, I had a very honest conversation with my, then 9-year-old and said, I'm so excited for your third grade graduation. Dad is going to be there. He's going to show me awesome pictures and videos, and we will celebrate when I get back. And it's important that we not only emulate this for our children and our teams, but, for ourselves, not to feel guilty or resentful or shameful that we're allocating time and energy to something that we're choosing. Yes. It's not like we're held against our will. And if you don't show up, there's something bad that's going to happen to you. It's I'm choosing to be here and I'm going to be fully present with it, even though I can't be over here doing this thing too. We can't be in multiple places. So I think that there's a lot about the intention behind your actions, but also not dealing with something like guilt and shame within yourself and just processing that, or just saying, you know what, I made this choice and I feel good about it.
Erin, ever since we met, I've always felt that you're self-actualized. And that is a great example of why I think that. I mean, that is very well articulated. And, you know, I'm Italian and Catholic, so I feel guilt no matter what I do. So I'm going to try and employ that more so. So maybe I'll get better at it.
I'm Irish and was raised Catholic, so I get it there. I totally get.
Gotcha.
I spent my adult years unraveling
Yeah.
guilt. And the guilt does not serve me. I tell you that much. So definitely unlearning that was an important part of my own growth.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about valuations and
Okay.
the business that you're in. What are you seeing when it comes to how you value a business?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you're looking for, and some of the factors that really influence your valuations and how you provide service?
Well, it goes beyond the face. I mean, you can look at anything we're talking about, like either whether you're valuing a business, real estate, machine or equipment. It goes beyond that item, that thing, that whatever. Is that what you see on its face may not be exactly what's going on. It's like the don't judge a book by the cover kind of situation, because you're looking at financials, you're looking at management or operating agreements, you're looking at all the things that actually surround that business, whatever. Is you're looking at the economy, you're looking at the industry. What's going on in the industry? How's that being affected? During COVID, we know that the retail businesses really were not doing well. And right now, the thing is, ironically enough, they've bounced back after 5 years. They're actually some of the better performing businesses that you can see out there, which has really been a shock, because basically, Amazon was killing it during COVID, and none of the other retailers really were. But now it's a lot better. So you're looking at the things that have affected certain businesses and how they operate, and how do they react or be proactive within the context of the economy itself, whether it be the industry, the outside economy, all the things that matter to that business. Who's their customer, that kind of thing.
And what do you see business owners or executives do, or what decisions do you see them make at times that unintentionally or unconsciously hurt their company's valuation over time?
Well, and I've seen it both ways, where they've made decisions that really they went on a gut, and they said, we're going to do this, and it's paid off. And I think the best entrepreneurs that I've seen have that intuitive sense of really what the business is. They've become part, that business has become part of them. Now, the people that there are people that do get into business that, and I don't know if I want to say that, they never should have gotten into business, but maybe that is the case. Maybe what it is that having the tools, and the tools could be, how were you raised? Where did you come out of? Did you come out of school? Did you come out of actually running that business? Those are the things that you see often. It's not just a singular moment or item that either makes something great or makes something bad. It's really a conglomeration of a lot of facts, figures, and really the overall environment. So that's what I see.
And do you see often that there's a need for succession planning in businesses that you're valuing, or do they have a lot of that in place by the time they come to you? Like, where's the timing of a business coming to you and saying, hey, we think we want to sell, and can you give us a valuation?
Erin, that's a great question. And you know what? These are the questions I get asked every day. Is just like, hey, I have this business and I need a succession plan. This is what we're doing. Can you help us out in terms of what it looks like now, what it could look like with having the right people in place? So we test a lot of different scenarios for our clients, and that is absolutely part of it. Whether it's actually trust and estate work, gift tax, succession planning, all of those things that go into that equation at that time are absolutely everything that we're testing. We're looking at every different aspect of how the business actually works, and how it's run right now, and who's going to take it over. What's the next step? Is there an end game? I was just talking to a client right before you and I got on, and I said to them, so what's your end game? Do you want to be acquired? or do you want to be, do you want to continue to move on? And the guy looked at me and said, that's a good question. I hadn't thought about that, but this is what and he just off the cuff of it, he said, this is what I think I want to do now with this business. And he goes, I'm glad you asked me that question.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always say I don't have an exit strategy in my business because I will work until I'm 80 as long as people still want to work with me.
I hope there's more of these in your future. This is what I want to see. I want to see more books from Erin.
Yes, there will be. There will be. I say, like, after you birth a baby, you don't jump into having another one.
Understood.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, well, actually, one more quick question on business, because I think that this would be an interesting thing for listeners. But where have you had experiences with clients or potential clients that you're like, whoa, this is a really crazy deal? And you've either said no to it or you've done it and it's been one of the craziest deals you've done.
There are many times I've worked with that person and I've said, oh my God, I should have never done this. it was and God bless them. You know what? And everybody's a child of God. Okay. And I look at it that way. And I say, look, I'm not them. I can't understand what they're going through. So I'm going to continue to do my best, and that's all I can do. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best. And if they're not happy, then, I tell them, I say, look, and generally I had this actually last week. I had a gentleman that said, Joe, we can't do this. And I said, or he said, well, I need you to do this, this, and that. And I told him, I said, sir, I can't do that. I mean, first of all, it would jeopardize my license. That's number one. Number two is that I can't put in a report that somebody says something and have that be proof. And so I said, what I can do for you is this. And he said, let me think about it. He calls me back about a day later and he says, no, you know what? Thank you very much, but we can't use your stuff. And I said, that's fine. I said, look, I'll look at this as an investment of my time into you. I said, let's do business again sometime, or think about it at least with me, and then we'll go from there. So it's definitely those kind of situations do arise, and that's the way I prefer to handle it. Like, hey, look,
yeah,
I'll look at it as an investment of my time.
So it's, people being difficult, but then you maybe initially saying yes to the business and then learning along the way that it's not all money is good money, right? Exactly. And that it's not going to be worth it because in some way it is going to impact your well-being or your integrity.
Yes.
And at that point, that this is not for you, right? And you've got to be honest.
My integrity is everything. Okay. Without it, I can't do my work. So,
And I think too often in business in general, people try to ignore those signs because they think they just have to keep servicing that client because it's money coming in the door. Yeah. And yes, of course, money is a reality that we all have to, we have to make money to live, right? But at some point, if it is going to jeopardize your integrity or your well-being and you're going to suffer because of that piece of business, then how much is it really worth it? So tell me, Joe, how do you keep yourself grounded in the midst of all the travel that you do, all the transactions that you're working on? What are the things or the rituals that you have in your life that really keep you centered and create your inner peace?
Thank you for asking me that. So I'm very spiritual. Okay. We both said we were raised Catholic, and I am. I'm still Catholic, because I travel and because I got so many things going on, I don't always get to mass, but I am always spiritual, and I always talk to God, and every day. That's part of my plan. And I read, whether it be prayers or I read things that are important to my soul, and I think about, and I'm grateful for everything I have and for the people in my life. That's the first thing I do. The second part is that I can't be there for everybody unless I'm there for myself. And so I spend time working out. I don't always eat well, but it tastes good when I'm eating it.
You enjoy it.
Yeah. But, I try to eat a little bit better. And I just try and stay on top of my own health and that kind of thing. And I just came back from my last trip last week, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to I don't care what happens. I'm not traveling the rest of this year. I'm just dead tired. I had a lot of travel this year. Some of it was it was all because I had to. But the point is that This last 3 weeks, I'm like, I'm not doing it. And, so like I said, sometimes you got to be there for yourself to take care of others. Um,
Right.
so that's it. And those are the main things in my life.
Right. And I would say, in fact, always you have to be there for yourself in
Absolutely.
order to take care of others
Yeah.
because you cannot give from an empty vessel.
Nope.
If you've got nothing left in the tank, then you're going to be resentful and angry and all the things
Yep.
towards other people because you're exhausted. Right. And it's like
Yep.
taking that rest or saying
Mhm.
no when you know that that no is a bigger yes to yourself. That's important. You can't go to every single holiday party. The
No.
number of holiday parties I had to say no to
Mhm.
because I know that I'm not going to have anything left the next day if I'm, drained until 9:30 at night by having
Mhm.
2 glasses of wine and chatting with 50 people. Now there
Mhm.
are those that I say yes to, but there are those I have to say no to, right?
Of
And
course.
I can't feel bad
100%.
about that. It's just got to be an intentional choice to serve me too. So I think
Agreed.
more people are starting to catch on to that as well.
Yep.
They're really taking care of themselves
Yep.
first and foremost, which does not mean being cold and detached. It just
Right.
means filling your tank.
Exactly. I mean, the best example I can give you on that for me was, I think you knew I was teaching at Roosevelt University, and oh my God, I loved the students, and the real estate department was wonderful. But it got to be too much. I was teaching up to 3 days a week, and it was certainly impacting the way I was operating in business and that kind of thing. So I had to basically say, hey, look, we're not, I can't do anymore. And it was difficult to step away from that, but I had to. So,
Right. Exactly. If you could leave people with one piece of wisdom, because you're obviously a wealth of wisdom and, kind of what I would say, you're very soul aligned. And
mm,
so what is it that you would share with people on a very human level about intention or gratitude or even just, kind of time? What do you want them to know?
certainly be grateful be a person that has gratitude for sure. But the one thing I'll leave you with for sure is I loved what my grandmother used to tell me when I was a little boy. She'd say, in her broken English, Joey, do not be afraid of work. Let work be afraid of you. And that shaped me.
That's awesome. That's very, very clever of her.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that one.
Thank you.
So is that a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self? Sounds like you
Um,
took it from her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Oh, thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing that. I can tell how much that really touches your heart.
It does.
So sweet. Very sweet. Well, Joe, where can people find out more about you and J2C evaluation services?
Well, we have a website, and I should know the exact address off the top of my head, but it's I believe it's we're J2CV, if I remember correctly. So that's it.
Well,
And
well, we'll share that in the show notes for
okay,
everyone that wants to
all right,
find out more. And then they can find you on LinkedIn under your name, which will
yes,
also include your LinkedIn profile as
thank you so
well.
much. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Yeah.
Aaron. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Well, thanks for being here. It was a blast to have you. Uh,
Likewise.
Everyone, you know what to do. Please like and share the episode with anyone that you know would benefit from it. And leave a review or a rating. It helps this show find more and more people. And until next time, be well.